today I'm having green tea.
What's that?
That's you, mate. Must be you.
It's not me. The bomb has been planted.
Oh, it's Hamish. It's Hamish. Look, his alarm clock. What the fuck? That is Iran.
Terrorists have won.
Sending some missiles. What the fuck?
Welcome to another episode of Political Dregs. I'm Calvin Robinson, and with me is Hamish Hunter, Joel Davidson, and Amir Sajady.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Topic of the day, topic of the week. Meghan Markle and His Royal Highness, Prince Henry of Wales, are causing quite a stir. I know a couple of you are going to be unhappy about this situation. So before we get to you, I just want to say that I've always been a fan of Meghan's work. I like Suits is one of my favourite programmes. I think she played the entitled, spoilt daughter very well. Rachel Zane is a great character. But also, I know we're going to talk a lot about her. I imagine we are. But I just wanted to note that out of all of this, I feel most for the Queen. I think Her Majesty, she's their grandparents. She's an old lady. She's going through a lot at the moment. This is going to obviously take its toll. But above all that, they've just been outright unpolite towards her and they haven't treated her fairly. So let's get to the situation. What is the situation? How do you feel about it? I think we'll start off with Joel on this one.
Oh wow! Well, look, this has just been an extraordinary story. I think what it's shown us most of all is that institutions still do matter to the people of this country. That's something that I've been trying to explain to a lot of lefties who have sort of jumped on the bandwagon here and seem to have become huge monarchists all of a sudden in terms of support of these reforming duo. But Princess Sparkle and Harry. But the behaviour is absolutely appalling. We've just actually literally hot off the press seen a video that emerged on social media of Harry openly hawking Sparkle to the CEO of Disney.
This video is disgusting.
The top dog of Disney at a Lion King premiere, which is a voiceover animated film. He just garishly tells him she does voiceovers. I mean, it is.
You could see the person next to Bob Iger, is it? You could see her cringing. Yeah. I was embarrassed for them. It was horrible. I
mean, that is just unseemly. And so I just think that's just a knife in the guts for a lot of people who really do revere the royal family as an institution of this country, of the British country, of the United Kingdom. It's supposed to mean something. And I think, if anything, we saw from the general election result, again, that was the working class people, the normal people, middle class people, everyone, patriotic Brits just said, that vote actually meant something. Whatever your shenanigans, whatever you're trying to do, that actually meant something to us. And we're seeing the same thing here. And that's really what at the heart of this issue is. This has just been an outright assault on the institutions of the country and in a material way and in a commercial way. And it's just been really unseemly. So
I think we're jumping the gun a bit, and that's my fault. We haven't actually said what the issue is here, in that Harry and Meghan have both said that they want to step aside from being senior royals. They want to have a more progressive role in this institution. They want to spend half of their time in North America, whether that's Canada or the US, and half back in Windsor in the UK. And so they've kind of said that they want to take a step back while also maintaining the relationship that they have with the institution in their titles and all that they're due, without actually having to maintain the royal duties and responsibilities that entails, which is why it's a contradiction in my opinion. But from what I believe, and I know Hamish has got some notes on this, is that this has been an ongoing conversation for quite a while, and Her Majesty the Queen has said, yeah, we'll have a discussion about this, but put a solid proposal together, put a business plan together of what you expect to achieve, what your outcomes you want to see. Run that through your father, the Prince of Wales, and then we'll have a chat about it and see what we can do. And as I understand it, Prince Harry has not had a proper conversation with his father about the situation yet, or they hadn't come to any firm agreement, and they've just made an immediate announcement without going through the royal household, which is astonishing. Hamish, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think that there are very few people who will take objection to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex wanting to step back as what they refer to as senior members of the royal family. If they don't want to be part of the royal family, they don't want to undertake the role and responsibility then and live as private citizens, then that's absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned, and I think most people. I don't even actually have an objection to them being sort of part-time members of the royal family. There is some precedent for that. Princess Anne, Princess Royal, for example, does a huge amount of work as a working royal, but also lives to some extent as a private citizen and funds her estate in the country privately and gets on with her life. That's not an issue for me. The issue is for me is, as you say, the way they went about it, the sort of what Meghan wants, Meghan gets attitude, which is not only not telling the Queen, coming out with this announcement that nobody knew about, trying to force the issue, then scurrying back to Canada. But actually, if you look at what they've said, they really do want to have it all. They want to keep their titles. I don't really care about that. They want to clearly keep the funding from the Duchy of Cornwall, which is Prince Charles's sort of income, which is it's not public, but it's pretty, it's sort of quasi-public. They'll keep the security. They'll keep Frogmore Cottage, which they, in the UK as a residence, which they had refurbished at huge public expense. But they don't want to participate in the sort of the royal rota media system, or do things that clearly they think are beneath them, like opening the village hall in Ashby de la Zouch. They'll go to the premieres, they'll go to the ambassadors' parties in the Commonwealth and do all that sort of thing, but they won't do the other. I'm afraid that's not how it works. If you don't want to be in the royal family, absolutely fine. However, they want to clearly have it both ways, and there's a really, I'm to say this, but there's just a feeling that they think it's beneath them. They think the ribbon cutting and the handshaking and essentially mixing with the proles is beneath them.
Yeah, but at the same time, shamelessly hawking themselves at a premiere.
That's the thing. That's why they want to keep the titles. They want to use it for their own commercial advantage.
Exactly.
That's
That's what's so disgusting about this. Of course, they could, if they want to, have their own, retire from public life, they can. But this has just been disgusting what they've been doing. I mean,
and the new Sussex Royal website, which is clearly a cost of fortune, and trademarking thing. I mean, it all just gets a bit sort of grubby, doesn't it?
And especially since, of course, that wedding, that lavish wedding that gave her an enormous platform, if you like.
And this is the thing,
paid for by the British taxpayer ultimately, and
this is something you make a really good point. A lot of people are talking about how the Duchess of Sussex has been unfairly treated and stigmatised by the press, but actually, if you remember the wedding, the press was fantastic. They had a wedding which was, I remember, in fact, I watched it with Calvin. It was a right royal affair, but it was also made reference to and incorporated things that were clearly important to Meghan Markle. You had the gospel choir. You had Prince Charles walking her down the aisle in lieu of her father. We had the bishop sermonising, who was an American Episcopal bishop. And the press was wall to wall, fantastic coverage. And what that showed, I think, is that there was absolutely no sense that she wasn't welcome in this country, in the royal family, as part of our national fabric. But also, and really crucially, they were putting themselves front and centre as being working royals. There was the Fab Four with her, with them and the Cambridges, and they were setting up various initiatives. They sort of put themselves out there as working royals, and they never, they didn't say, let's step back, we don't want any part of this. So that's what sort of really confused me, is that they kind of set themselves up. And they were, people talk about the slim down monarchy that Prince Charles wants, which is probably a good thing given the family is so large and people live very long nowadays. Well, certainly, at least until Prince William takes the throne, they would be part of that slim down monarchy. So I don't think they've been edged out in that sense.
On that note, and I do want to come to Amir, but on that note, the bit that confuses me the most about this is that they're saying that the rift was made bigger by this whole the press photos with the direct lineage to the throne. You had the Queen, the Prince of Wales, Prince William, and Prince George all in the same photograph, and apparently that's made the rift even bigger. And I'm like, but you're not a direct.
You were minor royals to begin with.
You're not a direct in line to the throne.
Yeah, and also, I'm sorry. Princess Anne has gone from being second in line to the throne to whatever she is now, but probably I don't know 20th or something. But she has continued her work. In the modern day, if you're the second child, you know that you're not going to take the throne because people just don't die prematurely. But Prince Harry's on record as saying he wouldn't want to be king.
It's not about being king, is it? This jealousy of the Cambridges is this jealousy of the attention. They want to be at the forefront, like you said. They want to be on a pedestal so that they can virtue signal and do all this stuff that the left celebrities, the lovies, do, in that preach without practicing. Go on their private jets all around the world and tell normal people like you and I that we shouldn't be using Let's hear what Amir wants to say about all of this.
I've been listening to you guys speak, and I'm not a royalist. I have no interest in the royal family, actually. So it's quite interesting. I'm a bit of a outsider when it comes to my perspectives about the royal family and Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. That being said, Prince Harry, I believe he was 12 when Princess Diana passed away, and based on what I have observed, it seems to me that he has struggled with dealing with the death of his mother for a long, long time. And it also seems to me that he had a very close relationship with his brother William. Maybe he was the only other person who could quite understand what he was going through the years. So I think that's had an effect and an impact on his perception and his kind of the way he deals with the press and his view of the press. And he might have this like demonized view of the press because of the way the press would hound his mother. And he was quite young when she passed away. I do feel that maybe Meghan, when she came along, she gave him the confidence that he never maybe previously had. For the first time, he didn't actually need to rely on William. He could rely on someone else to give him the confidence that he needed. So I'm not quite sure blaming her is correct. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing out there.
But you've just said about how close they were. The Prince, Duke of Cambridge and the Duke of Sussex, they were tight as nails, as thick as thieves. But then she's crafted this wedge between them and manipulated Prince Harry to get her own.
But what I'm saying is, do you think it's I don't know if it's a manipulative action. I don't know. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here. Could it be that she's come along, fallen in love, he's fallen in love with her for the first time in his life? I'm just getting me out. For the first time in his life, he has confidence in himself as a person outside of that upbringing that he has led under the wing of his brother, kind of finding his place in the royal family, kind of not having a great relationship with the press in general, and all of a sudden
he wants to be a huge celebrity still, a huge global name with her, doesn't he? That's what they want.
But is it her or is it him? I don't know if it's like we're putting her saying, well, she came along, and ever since she came along, the problem began. But don't you think the problems began a long time ago?
No, he has had a difficult life in some ways, and but he was very popular in this country. It's not like he was given a hard time. I mean, he was. Yes, he was very popular. I don't think it was the press. The press were, of course, interested in him. But
no, I think with the press as well. I think what Amir says is right, and clearly, both Prince William and Prince Harry have a difficult relationship with the press.
Yeah.
However, I would make 2 points. The first is that if Prince Harry wanted to be a working royal and with his family, with the Duchess of Sussex and Archie and all of that, then they really rubbed the press up the wrong way. The sort of bizarre briefing about the birth when it was announced, but actually the birth had happened quite a few hours ago, and so people thought, is this being timed for American media? And they're not telling people details. You're just rubbing them up the wrong way. But second of all, if they just wanted to completely withdraw from the royal family, which and sort of say, well, look, we're private citizens, nothing to do with you, then that's absolutely fine, and I would respect that. But as I've said, but they're not going to achieve that sort of level of privacy if they then want to do this sort of celebrity Hollywood style thing. And I'm sure Prince William feels exactly the same towards elements of the press that as Harry does, but he realizes that as a senior member of the royal family, and in his instance as a future king, there is going to be some press instances. So we get the photos that are released on special occasions and the access, but then that's it. And unfortunately, it comes with the job, doesn't it? You give a little bit, they respect a certain boundary, and Harry and Meghan have just ripped that off, said fuck you to the press. And I don't think, I think, when they go and move to what they call Canada and everyone else realizes is Los Angeles, that's not going to be how it works out, I'm afraid.
No, I do see what you're saying, Amir, but they have had a really narcissistic way of handling this, and they're perceived to have just shown a really unnecessarily wanton disrespect for any kind of role and disrespect of the tradition they're in. Yes, of course there are a lot of issues with it, and I don't think the Prince Andrew situation has helped at all.
No,
but that doesn't give them the moral high ground to act in the way they've acted. And
I just don't know if people are like saying this Meghan ever since she's come along, everything's gone wrong. Okay. And I just think, she could have given him the empowerment that he needed to go down this path. She was the catalyst, but it's still his path.
I'm just not sure it is, because going back to what Hamish was saying about them wanting to own their relationship with the press, they're not using the institutions that are in this country. They're not using the mechanisms of the royal household to make any announcements or any publicity. They're going through through Los Angeles PR firms, for example. That's all her history and her friends and her people.
But he's found a way of finally doing what he wants. He's like,
what is it that he wants?
I don't think he has, because either you can be a part-time royal, but you have to kind of buy into that when you're doing it, or you can just say, look, I'm going to be a private citizen, or you can be a working royal. But what he's trying to do is be a Hollywood celeb. And whether that's fair or not. But the one thing I would say, just before you say, the one thing I would say is, and people can change their mind, right? That I totally get that, but they started out saying we're going to be senior members of the royal family, we're going to be working royals, and we're going to be full time, funded by the taxpayer. It's that sort of contract that the British people have with the royal family, is that you do certain things and we pay for certain things for your lifestyle. However, what transpired, which I think has been really difficult, is that instead of doing all the boring but worthy stuff, what we got was preaching at us, hypocrisy at us, lecturing, and then, Meghan flying over to New York for a baby shower, staying at the Mark Hotel, tens of thousands of dollars, taking Elton John's private jet and then jet to, on holiday, zipping back and forward from Canada like it's a trip on the 24 bus in London, and then preaching at us. And this is not how it works. And she especially, but they as a couple cannot possibly make the argument they didn't know what this was about. Right? Yeah. The royal family is very clear what it's about, right? You just got to look. There's enough, there are enough books, there are enough articles, and I just think it's a bit, fine, change your mind, but they have not helped themselves with how they have conducted themselves since their wedding.
I mean, I'm sure you're right. I'm not arguing because I don't really know that much about the royal family. I just, from an external perspective, I'm just seeing that she couldn't have done it alone. He couldn't have done it alone. They've come together, and all of a sudden, this is happening. So
it's been definitely an effective, a powerful combination of forces. But I just think she has expected PR, not press, the whole time. I mean, you cannot expect the media not to be interested in the fact that at this fairy tale wedding, she's only got her mother there. I mean, I know it's all. You can't expect the press not to be interested in the fact that.
But why are we so interested in these small,
that is just the way
it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Well, you can say it's weird, but I mean, it's just clearly a reality that
and part of it is because they take our money, right? I go to work.
They make a lot of money too, don't they? I mean, the royal family makes a huge.
But we were paying for the wedding. We were paying for this wedding. So
I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm okay with the royal family existing, because the amount of money they bring into this country.
It's a social contract, but equally, my wedding ain't being paid for. My little flat in Hampstead, my little humble little flat in Hampstead, ain't being paid for. Meghan Markle could pay for her own fucking house if she wants.
Certainly
this
can.
Is the thing, and we keep talking about what he wants and is this him, but we actually don't know what he wants. We know what she wants. We know she wants her LA lifestyle. We know she wants to be doing movies again and commercializing herself and becoming a household name. We don't actually know what the prince wants.
Well,
does he want to be a celeb?
I mean, Harry served our country. That's great, and he deserves a lot of respect and credit for that. But certainly, since then, I just, I've only, I mean, and the Invictus. To be fair, the Invictus.
Well, he was searching for a purpose throughout the whole of his life. He found this woman. He fell in love. He's a father now.
But there was such good promise. There was such good promise. The way they did on mental health, the Invictus Games, all of this sort of thing. It was new. It was progressive. The Fab Four, what the three of them were doing. It could have been so great. It could have been different. It could have been new. But they've thrown it all away, as far as I can see.
Yeah. But maybe look, you and I don't know the dynamics of the internal life of the royal family. There are conversations, there are attitudes within that kind of remit where maybe they're just tired of that. They're just fed up. Now, you're right when you say they can't have the cake and eat it. They have to decide. But to me, it seems like they've made the decision. They're making the decision. And obviously, it's a negotiation. And when, as you know, when it comes to like Brexit, for example, when you're negotiating, you ask for more than maybe you will eventually get.
You do it in private. You don't do it.
Absolutely.
But anyway, tomorrow morning.
I mean, that's all part of negotiation. I mean, they're using. I mean, they're negotiating. I mean, you can't criticize them for using whatever means they have to get what they want. Can you?
Of course you can.
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to tell my boss that I'm quitting my job.
Don't tell your boss. Tell the press.
I want to tell my boss that I'm quitting my job.
Boris does it all the time.
Title, and I want him to pay me, but I don't want to have to turn up any longer.
But Boris does that all the time. People do that all the time. They go to the press because it's more of a wow. It's more of a power. It's part
people
of.
Just can't do that. You can't carve out your own niche in a job. Frankly, that's what people understand.
Look, it's obvious that for me, it's obvious that Harry is finally kind of settled down with this woman who he loves. He has a child, which is number one priority in his life, as far as I can see. And also something that we haven't even talked about is. She's just had a baby. I mean, when you just have, I'm not a woman, but when you just have a baby, she could be going through a lot of kind of emotional kind of roller coaster. We don't know.
Joel, as the father of a daughter, could you tell us some more about this?
That is very empathetic, Amir, and indeed correct.
She had a fucking massive maternity leave, didn't she?
It doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, her child.
Many women have had. There are millions of women who have had a million times worse pregnancies than her, and support around them, I would imagine. But it is indeed very good of you to be speaking up for mothers. So yeah,
postnatal depression is real. Okay,
it is indeed. Real. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, it is. Yes.
And I think the press. I think the press have gone. It's all clickbait as far as I'm concerned. Actually, Piers Morgan goes on his kind of rants and he
Well,
attacks.
he's quite funny, but yeah, I mean, it is apparently, if it is true that he just doesn't like the fact that she stood him up for a second date, that is quite funny.
Right, you bring up a good point there. One thing I do think we need to talk about is the race issue, because everyone who's criticising Meghan is getting called a racist. I know Piers Morgan has been the victim of this quite a lot as well. And I think it upsets me particularly because it trivialises actual racism. It undermines people that experience racism in real life. It is not a racist thing to criticise someone who happens to be an ethnic minority. Otherwise, that means that everyone who is an ethnic minority is beyond reproach. You can't criticise them, comment on them in any way. That would be a ridiculous world to live in. We can all criticise anyone in the public life. Meghan has very much put herself in the public life, so she is open to criticism. And just because she's black or mixed race does not mean that we can't talk about her. And if we do talk about her, it doesn't make us a racist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that is absolutely right. And look, the other evening, Newsnight did a discussion about this whole issue, which included the former R&B and pop singer Jamelia.
Oh yeah,
right? Jamelia. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Now, if you're wondering why Jamelia was on Newsnight talking about this, and how she is possibly qualified as a royal or any other commentator, then I'm afraid I genuinely can't help you, because I have absolutely no idea. And the Newsnight viewers were none the wiser, because she was sort of described as a broadcaster, right? So
she makes Angela Rayner look clever.
What did she sing?
But she said two things. I actually wrote them down, right? Because I wrote them down verbatim, right? And they really struck me. Right? The first thing that she said, when asked if she thought that this whole sort of Harry and Meghan, sort of stepping back, half in, half out, progressive role was a positive move, Jamelia said, quote, "I think all change is positive." What? It's a manifestly stupid thing to say, which of itself just demonstrates why she shouldn't be on Newsnight as a talking head, and it's completely unsuitable. But it's just really, I mean, she cannot possibly mean that, right?
She obviously meant.
For example, the United Kingdom is leaving the EU, right? That is a change. But I will bet you any money in the world that she is not a fucking Brexiteer. It's just a moronic thing to say, and just demonstrates that she should not be on the television. But more importantly than that, she said, and I wrote this down as well, right? Because I was just stunned by what she said, right? She said, and I promise you this is a quote, right? You look at it, it's like the 8th or 9th of January, Newsnight episode. She said, quote, "Every single word that is used against Meghan Markle is steeped in racism." And for good measure, she also chucked in the fact that she thought that we do, quote, "we do live in a racist society." Now, of course, Jamelia couldn't proffer anything so tedious as evidence to back any of this up. Although she did say, by the way, and I wrote this down as well because I was so outraged with it. She did say that most of the people, she thought this was really bad, she complained about this, most of the people who are getting to speak about this are old white men, which, apart from being an obviously manifestly racist thing to say, also demonstrates how far public discourse in this country has fallen, that it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter the evidence that you put forward for your proposition. All that matters to a certain sector of people in this country is who you are, what you look like, how you identify. Yep. And I mean, it's just disgusting. Meghan Markle, as I've said before on this podcast, had a big flashy wedding. She had great headlines. People, the wedding was included, gospel choirs and people, all that sort of thing. We were very accepting of her because, frankly, I don't believe this country is racist. The reason she's getting bad press is because she's acting badly. And the fact that Jamelia goes on the fucking Newsnight and calls Robert Lacey, the respected historian, some sort of old white person, it's just pathetic.
Catholic British citizen, Northern Ireland celebrity Eamon Holmes put it perfectly. He just said she's fundamentally unlikable, and that is the reality. You can look at it from whatever angle you like, but do you really think that she's a nice person? No. Would she be someone that you would enjoy spending time with? No. Harry, absolutely.
A lot of people form their views from reading the tabloids and from mass media. I think it's really bizarre how we can kind of have these opinions about people we've never met before.
That's fair. And I would say I wouldn't go as far as Joel. I don't think she's unlikable. I wouldn't say I don't like her. I don't like what she's doing, and I don't like what she's done to the Queen and to the royal family. I don't know her enough to dislike her.
It doesn't make you racist.
And I'm not old, and I'm not white, and I have an opinion on her. So deal with it, Joel.
Yeah, and this is the other thing. I mean, you look at how other people who married into the royal family are treated. I mean, obviously, Diana, Princess of Wales, got hounded. Nobody in the history of humanity has ever said anything nice about Sarah, Duchess of York, right? Fergie's had everything slung at her, the poor woman, and probably quite rightly, right? That's just what happens when you are an objectionable, obnoxious.
Fergie was appalling that some of her behaviour. Andrew deserves enormous, opprobrium in terms of what's happened to him, and worse. And we'll see. That could be a really horrendous. Story, but he deserves a lot of the criticism that he's got for being a fairly disreputable person. But the Meghan situation, there's some, as I said, there is something. I believe that the press respond to things. They give essentially the British public what they want to see. They don't just make this stuff up.
Could this have been prevented?
Advertising platforms, because it's what the most people want. It's a virtuous circle. The audience is there because they want to see this stuff. They're interested in it.
I wonder if Buckingham Palace is a bit behind the times. I mean, they've allowed Andrew kind of hang out.
But it's not an institution that's supposed to be ahead of the times. It's an institution based on tradition. It's not supposed to be.
But also, Andrew's been sacked. Like, he did not volunteer to step back. He did not volunteer to step back.
But the issue I have with these people that Hamish raised, these woke progressives who are always preaching and trying to shut down arguments and claiming that they're racist, is that the irony behind it all is that they're always the ones being racist. That's the thing that gets me. They don't see it.
Well, I mean, I think if she goes back to the States, she's going to deal with a lot more racism. There's a lot more racism in the States than there is in the UK.
You want to see a racist country.
And there's maybe as perhaps a concluding thought on this whole thing. I did think, I don't believe it's a race issue. And I thought, well, what's all this about? Maybe it's because as an actress by profession, by trade, she's temperamentally unsuited to being a member of the royal family. And I thought, I was pretty happy with that analysis until sort of earlier today. I thought, hang on a minute. Princess Grace of Monaco was an actress, and she was a sublime princess. So you can't even pin it on that.
Yep, a sublime princess. What a positive way to finish.
Yeah, indeed. So thank you very much for watching. Please comment. Let us know what you think about this discussion and what else you'd like us to talk about. Please subscribe, like, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye there.
Bye.
Shall we say hello to some friends of the show? Anyone got any friends to say hello to?
Yes, I'd like to say hello to Carolina Rodman from the States. She said, actually, it's quite interesting. She said, just watch the whole thing, love the group, and impressed how things remain calm. And the flow is great despite the difference of opinions.
Thank you, Carolina.
Thank you very much for watching.
Hope you enjoyed the last one as well, Carolina. Andrew Ralph hopefully will be on tomorrow. Irish councillor, I believe, from Donegal. He'll be talking about the peace situation in Northern Ireland and all sorts of other Northern Irish issues and Irish issues. So that'd be really good. So hi, Andrew.
Excellent. And we got a bit of feedback on Twitter from a Mike Higton. Why on earth would you follow what some of your collaborators say when A, they don't have a clue about what they're talking about, and B, have no personal honesty? It is a joke, isn't it? Thanks, Mike.